loops and beats you come up with? Because I remember from the very first time we talked that you told me it's pretty much one shot only, and it's done because you're not mixing and matching, that sort of thing. So give us a little bit more on this song.
So, I mean, the song is, it's like a lot of things. You can have your own interpretation of everything. So it's not about television so much as about, I guess I could call it big OCD.
Okay.
And it's about how people get caught up in these kind of loops that are regressive, heuristic, where they're like, okay, whatever happens out there, I'm going to key into it and keep going with it. The musical part's interesting for me because one of the things I've been trying to do the last 18, 24 months or so is simplify the music. So it's really based on the beat and that basic keyboard riff that sounds a little bit like a guitar riff that goes over and over and over again. And my goal was to create something that people would like go, okay, let me hear that phrase again, that little piece of melody again, that beat again, and put it into it. But, the funny thing is I tend to have titles that have these big sort of political or cultural pieces around them, but I'm really more interested in what does it sound like, what does it feel like, and can you dance to it? And that's a little bit of a dancey song for me. I mean, I come out of Athens in the 70s, 80s, and one of our mottos in Athens was "Fuck art, let's dance."
Right.
So that's a good example of "Fuck art, let's dance." And it's not like EDM or anything like that, but you can see people out in a club like the 40 Watt or something like that going like, okay, let's jump up and down. The lyric kind of goes with a lot of stuff that I'm kind of interested in, which is, how do people accept and process popular culture? Because that's what we live in. And I think the attitude is you can kind of just accept stuff, which is what most people do, and I understand it. It's a busy life, or you can kind of figure out a way to be critical about it, which I think is better.
Well, you know what, and I agree with that because a great deal of stuff out today, people almost don't want to be critical of just because they're too scared of the repercussions of it. And it kind of bothers me the fact that, we still live in the quote-unquote free country where we have a voice to opinionate and what we think of stuff, and we should more often and shouldn't necessarily be worried about what the repercussions are of it, just because they're not always going to be as huge as people think. It's almost a common consensus of the time we're in right now.
Yeah, well, it's interesting here in the States. I'm watching the big TV is about the normalization of the abnormal.
Right.
And what you're seeing right now in the States with Trump, as he becomes the Republican front runner, and there's this move towards normalizing Trump, and he's very abnormal. I mean, whether you are a Republican or a Democrat doesn't matter to me, but he's transgressive, he's disruptive, he's not normal, and there's this tendency to try to make him normal. Big TV kind of addresses some of those issues. So Facebook meme I saw recently says, the Democrats have two good choices, and the Republicans are trying to decide which live bug to eat.
Fair enough.
And so Big TV is kind of about that.
And that makes sense too. Just because, in a lot of cases, it's who's the lesser of two evils, right?
Well, not even that. It's like the idea that okay, it's okay to vote for crap.
No, fair enough. MadAndersons?
I'm curious about your writing process, Peter. Are your songs pretty much fleshed out in your head when you go to record, or do they evolve as you work, or does it vary from song to song?
Thank you. Excellent question. Varies from song to song. In some cases, maybe about 20%, I have an overarching idea of what I want to do with a song, meaning conceptually, and with that, there's a strong musical piece that comes in. Very frequently, however, actually what it starts with is not anything that's conceptual at all, but I hear something in my head, a beat with a bit of melody or a chord progression, and as those things evolve, a lyrical idea comes in. Sometimes, frankly, I will start just with the musical piece. There will be a chord progression that starts to devil me, and I'll work it out on different sorts of instruments in different ways until I understand what it's trying to do. And the interesting piece for me is it's not abstract. Once I start hearing a chord progression a certain way, at least visuals, if not words, start to associate with that chord progression. Sometimes I'll just say, I'm going to write a song about the fact that Brian is drinking wine and smoking right now. And then I'll figure out a way to put all the pieces together. Those are usually shitty songs, in my experience, because they start with the idea that there's a construct called a song, as opposed to there is something going on here that I'm trying to figure out how to put together. Does that answer your question?
Yes, very
Absolutely.
well.
And I have to say, flattery will get you nowhere, Peter.
I'm sorry, what, Michael?
I said flattery will get you nowhere.
And that, I understand that. So
Yeah.
I
So, just before we get to our next song, Peter, the one question I have for you, I've been thinking about this for a while, is from the move from New York to New Orleans, how has that affected your influences on music at all? Has it changed at all? Has it tilted the balance a little bit, or how's that worked for you?
So, I mean, I am who I am, or I am who am, as Bowie says in Black Star.
Right.
And I think I moved from a place where most music is kind of Guido to a place where there is a huge Afro-Caribbean influence, which I find very appealing. Ricky Lee Jones recently moved here about 3 years ago. It's a town that values music as music, and I think that's important. So I meet people in various places, and they say, "What do you do?" And I say, "Oh, I do this, and I'm a musician." They go, "Oh, you're a musician," which is different. So New Orleans is a very congenial environment to be an artist. Period.
Well, right on. I was just as one thing I was very curious about, because they're two big, we'll call it musical hubs. So I was curious as to if there was the transition, if that had any effect or extra influence on what you've been doing or what you've been creating recently.
It's made me feel freer. It's made me move towards, and there's a piece that's not that I'll probably put up later called "Some Great Heart Stilled," which has a lot of piano and very much a strong jazz influence. Though it's definitely not jazz. A jazz musician would go like, "Why the hell are you calling that jazz?" But I don't think I would have written it outside of New Orleans.
Right on. So next up, we're going to get to another track off the new album. This one's called My Chemicals. Dig this. Ken Trash.
I don't know what I feel. It's all chemical. It's all combination and recombination. But I'm being whittled down to nothing, and that at least feels like something. Oh, to be seen on the silver screen in your fancy car, to be a pearl in an ocean, or part of a machine. I don't know what I feel. It's all chemical, and it's all combination and recombination. which is chemicals, nothing remarkable. They're forgettable, fungible, repeatable, and we smell like the ocean. Tastes like a breeze, one in a million parts, a million, flowing out to sea. Don't know what I feel, it's all chemical. It's a combination and recombination. But all chemicals with the traces and the faceless, and we're facing you. I'm one part in a million, going out to sea. I don't know what I feel. It's alchemical. I don't know what I feel. It's alchemical. I'm one in a million parts per million. And I'm blowing out to sea. We are the chemicals, we are traces. We're the faceless and we're facing you.
My Chemical, Candy Trash. Now, Peter, with this song, you mentioned off air it was a hard one to write. Now, why was that?
So it was just hard to get all the different pieces right. So this was a song I wrote when I lived on Long Island, and I was sitting on my porch looking out across the Manhasset Bay, and you look at the ocean and you go like, okay, that's where we all come from. And so it started this lyrical association with, we're chemicals for all the stuff that comes together. And so the lyrical part was not too hard, and I started working with the trap beat, and I think this was the first song after Baby Doll, which is a song from about 7 or 8 years ago, where I said, okay, I need to learn how to play piano again. And so one of the hard parts for me was learning to play piano again. Doing keyboard parts is a lot different than playing piano. And as you can probably hear, although it's not perfectly that way, it's kind of jazz piano. And then the other part to me, I was going like, okay, this needs horns.
Okay.
And I've never thought in terms of horns, ever.
Cool.
And so I'm going like, well, it needs horns, so what do they sound like? How prominent are they? But I'm not totally sure. But I know that this song took about 20 or 30 takes before I was kind of happy with it.
I know, I was kind of curious about the horns too, because that's a bit of a hard thing to introduce in the type of music you're playing, just because it kind of sounds out of place. I mean, I know it can be kind of possibly worked in like you had done, but initially that's not what I would have thought, even I would ever associate the two together.
Yeah, I know, but it made sense to me at the time, and I think it works in the context of the song, and they are very low-key horns. It's not like I've got the Tower of the Power
right
going on there.
Well, I'm definitely not faulting you for